to the MimasAI podcast. I'm your host, Tim Nelson, where we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming business, leadership, and growth worldwide, quite literally. So today I'm joined by John Holder. He's from JLH Consulting in Canada, and he's a leader in helping organizations modernize and scale with strategies and innovations, including AI. But more interestingly, he's in the aquaculture business and stuff, and so he's going to talk a lot about that today. So I'm excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thanks, Tim.
John, thanks for being here. And won't you start by just introducing yourself and telling everyone who will watch a little bit about JLH Consulting?
Yeah, JLH Consulting is a consulting firm, and our main specialty is designing fish farms, actually on 6 continents. We've been very blessed, been to many, many countries. And what we've, like I said, it's RAS, it's recirculating aquaculture systems. So that means we use up to 99.7% of the water continuously and 0.3% makeup on a daily basis. And we do numerous different species. I think it's 17 or 18 species we've done. We've got operations in 20 some odd countries, 27 or something like that countries, over 170 projects since JLH started in 1999. But I've been in fish farming since July 9th, 1973. So it's 52 years. A lot of people said I should be retired by now, but Tim, I love this industry so much that why retire when you're having so much fun?
No,
And of course, in the background there, my son, JP, he's helping with the business. He's doing a lot of it now. But like I said, I still love it. Like I said, we started 1999, and we do a lot of projects actually during the year.
Outstanding, 6 continents. So that's amazing. And then you're blessed doing what you love. I'm in that camp too. I surely am.
Yeah.
So can you share what your journey into consulting was, and what led you to launch JLH Consulting? You love it, but what made you say, hey, I can form a business around this, John?
Well, what we do, we specialize in smaller projects, more like family businesses, First Nation businesses, things like that. We don't believe in the mega farms. You're from Florida, and I don't know if you've heard of Atlantic Sapphire, but there's a huge $1 billion have gone into this operation, and it's not doing that well. They're trying to do Atlantic salmon in Florida, which is a challenge because they're pumping up water from a huge underwater lake that's over 20 degrees Celsius. And Atlantic salmon like 12 degrees. So they have major money to cool it down. And they want to do 30,000 tons. To me, that's crazy. So we do anywhere from 50 tons up to 3,000 tons. And what we do is modular, so they can expand on that afterwards. And I know we're going to talk about AI today a little bit. And yes, AI has come into the fish farming business. Maybe not the way a lot of people think, but a lot of the monitoring equipment we use, it's linked to artificial intelligence because we have cameras now that go into the tank and they take pictures of the fish going by, and they take every dot, every stripe or whatever in the configuration of that fish. And they know that fish from that day on. And it's the canary in the mine, sort of speak. It's constantly looking for this fish and see how it's doing in the system. And of course, there's all these parameters behind it. Is it growing well? Is the conformation properly? Is it swimming well? And so on. It comes back to the operator, the farmer, and said, okay, you're doing a great job. Or you got to look at certain things. It could be water chemistry. It could be not enough feed. It could be overfeeding, low DO, and so on, dissolve oxygen. So that's just one aspect of AI coming into the business.
Outstanding. So it can look and identify the fish as an individual.
Yes, and it just doesn't take one fish, of course, but it takes numerous fish. Because some of these tanks have 10,000, 20,000 fish in them, and so we can't do them all, of course, but we do enough sample that we can monitor the tank, the health of the fish and the tank. And it's, of course, it's all computerized and it's all in the AI program. That just happened in the last couple of years, and there's just so much going on in AI that it's mind-boggling. It's hard to keep up.
Oh yeah, it's full time, and it's a fun journey. That is for certain, and it's constantly changing. So there's never a dull moment. So you mentioned you work with the First Nations, John, but are there other clients, or what kind of? Let me just ask this: what other clients or types of clients are you working with, and what do they typically come to you to solve? What problems are you solving for them?
Well, basically, the fish farming business has its ups and downs, but Tim, you never hear of the successes, which is the sad part. You always hear of somebody didn't do something right, and you hear those all the time. But it is a very successful land-based system business. And you just mentioned First Nations. Well, in Canada, especially, we have reconciliation. So the reserves, they say, well, we need to feed our people. And to be honest, the wild fisheries they're being decimated all around the world. Numerous different. We just can't go into that right now. Why? But climate change is the biggest one, I guess. But they're overfishing and so on and so on. So they say we have to feed the people. We have to give them a good diet. So fish farming, the First Nations have been harvesting off the land for centuries, right?
Forever.
Eons. So now they have the opportunity to grow the fish in the reserve, and we also hook it up with aquaponics. Now, aquaponics is growing leafy greens, vine crops, using the waste stream from the fish. So it's becoming very close to a closed loop. There's no such thing as waste anymore. That old saying, you use everything but the squeal and pigs, right?
Oh gosh,
Well,
yes.
it's basically become the same with fish. So the First Nations have an opportunity to grow a fish they're familiar with, say rainbow trout, pickerel or walleye, and fish they're not familiar with is tilapia and barramundi.
Yep.
Whitefish we do,
Sure.
brook trout. Oh, there's numerous different ones, but they can pick the one that they think that their nation will eat, and whatever surplus they have, they can sell outside the nation. But then again, say, well, we need a better diet that's economical. A lot of our First Nations aren't beside a grocery store, so and there are some of them are fairly isolated. So I said, what can we do to complement the fish? Well, you can grow lettuces or leafy greens. You can grow herbs. You can grow your natural medicines, your indigenous medicinals,
Yeah.
plants. You can do cucumbers, you can do peppers, you can do tomatoes, and the list goes on. So I said, wow, we can start eating salads. So it's a healthy diet. And you don't get that up in the Yukon. You don't get that in the Northwest Territories because the climate doesn't allow it. And it's just too cold and far away. But now all RAS systems are in buildings. Okay, so
they're indoors. Yep.
they're indoors, yes. And the reason being is two-legged predators, four-legged predators,
Right on.
disease. As long as you bring a disease-free stock, and we really recommend using eggs because you can surface disinfect them and they come from a disease-free stock. There's no more chemicals, there's no more drugs, no antibiotics required after that. So this is a very good source of protein, and we don't have to worry about withdrawals from the drugs because there's no drugs, there's no chemicals. So it's a perfect diet for First Nations and other people.
Yes, and I concur with you. I think eggs, fish, and venison. That's what I eat. I mean, those are some of those perfect proteins. So I'm a Minnesotan, so I understand the cold, and I understand. So you saw maybe my eyes perk up when you talked about walleye, because I'm a walleye fisherman, and I traveled extensively through rural Canada because I'm also a float airplane pilot. I had my own float, so I would go up and fish, and I was all over. So I love what you're doing, and I couldn't agree more. So we're going to get into the AI section of this too in just a second, but I just had one more question for you before we do that. And what really excites you about where you might be headed in the next few years, especially as we're going to really talk about AI next? What excites you about what's coming?
Well, what excites me is that people have finally realized that there are successful fish farms in RAS, and you don't have to be a 10,000 or 20,000 ton operator to make a profit. What JP and I, what we've done over the years is developed a system we call the RASway. Okay. And it is mixed cell raceway and very low energy required to run it. The capital cost is roughly 2/3 of a conventional round tank system. And you don't have to be an astronaut to run these things. We believe in the KISS principle. We do a lot of work in developing countries. So case in point, in Chile, when they first started out back in the mid 80s, they brought all this European technology in. And the reason I said astronaut, because they had, the example is spaceships that they had to run. Of course, the Chilean people, most of them, they're very hard workers, but they're not formally educated. Very smart, like they can adapt very well, but they don't have the skills to start with. And of course, the jefe or the manager, he went to all the seminars and the training things, and he came back and he tried to explain it to his workers. Well, at one point, they had this teeny little part fail. They couldn't fix it. They lost all their fish.
Oh, gosh. Because that can happen quickly, I bet.
Well, yes, you only got half an hour or less, depending on the
Yeah.
species.
So you
So
got
what we've decided to do is build something that a farmer can run economically. For example, we did in West Virginia. We did a comparison between the Radsway and the round tank system. It was a 5,000 ton farm, but it was two modules of 2,500 tons. As I said earlier, we don't like to go more than three. So we did a study by a third party engineer, and he came out and said, Radsway, the power is roughly 3.4 kilowatt hours per kilogram produced of steelhead trout. In the round tank system was over 9, 3 times more power. The
true.
capital cost was 2/3 of the round tank system. So it was a no-brainer.
Gosh. So that's so interesting. You've got all this experience. So you've got a great handle on all these metrics. So as we slip kind of into the AI discussion now, you're doing a lot of AI that we talked about a while ago, or maybe before we started, using AI on the delivery side. You're taking pictures of fish, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But are you using, or any of your customers, are you using artificial intelligence on the front side of that? I'm talking about maybe finding the right customers, educating the right customers, or using
No,
AI on the front side?
no, we don't. We're not on the front side. We use it within our systems. A lot of the well, we buy the technology, or our clients buy the technology. We're fish farmers.
Yes, right.
There's people who are far more intelligent with AI than we are, but we know how to use it. We think, but we don't know how to use it to the best benefit. So we hire consultants outside to lead the way for the fish farming industry. And
Okay.
so what's happening? I think I mentioned, maybe it was before we started, but in a tank there's up to 30,000 fish or whatever, and 10 to 30,000 fish swimming around. So we put an underwater camera in there, and it picks a fish and it photographs it. Then it stores it. It takes recognition of the dots, the shape of the fish, the stripes of the fish, the fins of the fish, how the fish is put together, the deformity of the fish, and it puts that into its storage. Then it goes to another fish. So out of 30,000 fish, you might have 100 fish that it's constantly looking for in that tank. So why do that? Well, automatically it tells the operator if he's doing a good job, because over the days and weeks, it follows those fish and see if they're growing to the growth models, which are updated constantly by the AI program, and seeing that it's getting enough food, it's getting enough exercise, it's getting the conformation of the fish, depending on the species. It could be, like a barracuda, or it could be like a carp, different things. But that's all programmed in, and we know what the fish has to look like prior to harvest. So it tells the operator, even by the gill movements of the fish, is it getting enough oxygen? Is it stressed? And so on and so on. So the operator comes in and says, that tank's doing great. It's number one. It's A plus. Well, that tank's only an A. What can we do to improve that? And then the program comes back and said, well, you're deficient, blah, 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 blah. And then you correct it, and off you go.
Well, that AI used as I think AI is best when it's used transparently. A lot of times, it's best when you don't really see it there. I mean, it's doing its job, but it's often best when it's just kind of running in the background there, and you don't really even it, but it's taking care of everything. So it sounds like you
Right.
got
And another thing that happens too, when I talked about growth models, the AI will change those and either increase or decrease the feed on a daily basis, because we use automatic feeders, which is connected to the AI. And also the oxygen levels. Like, there's so much that can be monitored and adjusted by the AI. But then again, it's a tool, right?
exactly right.
And these things right here, they tell you a lot what's happening.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly.
So when I was actually a fish farmer, every morning I would go. I had like 100 some odd tanks at the smoke facility I was operating. I would go to every tank first thing in the morning before anybody got there and looked at the fish, because you've heard of horse whispers.
Yeah.
I can't even say
Are you a
whispers.
fish whisperer?
I'm a fish whisperer. I had the ability sort of pick out what the AI does now, but to a much better scale than I could do, but good enough that I could see slight changes in that tank from day to day to day. Then I said, okay, something's not right here. So then we try to figure it out. But now the solution's basically done for me, but I still can see it. And you
Exactly.
cannot stop looking at your fish. That's
No,
number one.
you never want to avoid the human. You want to double and triple check with that side. So you bring up a great point there. So John, how do you see AI reshaping the way businesses might connect with and better understand their customers? I mean, we talked a lot about how it does with the fish, but how could you see using it to connect with the customer?
Well, that's a good point because we've never advertised. We have a website,
I looked at it. Brilliant.
and we get called to give papers at conferences and things like that until this year. We finally decided, I'm going to be 76 soon, and I want I want to have something better when I leave. Who knows when? 4 years, 2 years, 10 years, who knows? But it will
Yes.
come a day, and I want to leave something that's larger. Of course, you want to, but not too large where you can't manage it anymore. And I want to expose the world more to RAS because I'm a firm believer that it's the future,
All right.
and we cannot keep relying on the wild catch, and we can't keep relying on net pens in the ocean because of climate change. In BC, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a big movement to get the net pens off the ocean and onto land. There's net pens that they don't want to do that. But I think as climate change continues, they're going to be forced to do something because it's getting warmer and warmer. There's the blobs. I don't know if you've ever heard of the ocean blobs, but they're devoid of oxygen. They're starting to upwell on the coast. And of course, no oxygen, no fish.
Right. No dissolved oxygen equals no
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah. So it's coming. And this is what I want. I don't want a legacy, but I want to be, when I leave the industry, I want to know that I did the best I could to promote it. And now, how do I get people on track? So advertising, we have trade magazines. We just post small ads in, but up to now, it's been word of mouth. People just contact us. But we're still busy. But like I said earlier, I want to get busier and get more systems out there.
Right. So I saw that on
Now,
your website that
I
you
can do
did the
that.
conferences, some of the business that came out of that. So what's an example of a small business and how one even like yours or even your client could effectively use artificial intelligence without needing a massive budget to get a few of those a few more of those customers. And let me be blunt and set the stage for this. Can you handle much more? I mean, how much can you handle because you're ready to potentially retire, whatever, but
We're looking to hire.
okay.
And that's a different topic. We could talk about that forever. And it's difficult because not too many engineers, we're looking for an engineer and maybe two, that know about aquaculture. So we have to train them. And the same as the construction industry. There's not a lot of construction companies that have done RAS. So we have to train them.
Right.
And unfortunately, I don't know about that. So I have to charge you this much more to cover my butt,
Yeah.
And we're farmers. And the guy says, well, geez, I only got so much money and I want to do this. And I think you're charging me too much money. And then, it's a cycle. It goes on and on and on.
Well,
So that's why we like to do the smaller ones and keep the budgets down. And
you've got this neat, very narrow, deep niche. You talked about being a little more boutique. I like that because that's the way that I run too. And then artificial intelligence can surely be used for training and things like that you were talking about. So, and it can be done without a massive budget because the robots, the AI does most of the work.
Yeah.
So if a CEO or a potential client came to you, or someone at one of the fairs that you attend came to you today and said, "Hey, where should I start with artificial intelligence, or how would I start with you using AI potentially even in marketing?" What would your go-to advice be? What would you tell them? Hey, I want to work together. What would you say?
Well, again, like I said, that part of the AI, I don't know a lot about, but maybe you can tell me if I explain to what I tell my clients, maybe you can help with how would the AI work on that. First thing, when a client comes to me, and it's usually a farmer, we get a lot of pork farmers, chicken farmers who want to get out of that business, or even grain farmers. I said, I want to do something different, and I think fish is a good one. So I said, okay, number one, what do you want? How big a farm do you want? How much do you have to invest? Okay, so we get that out of the way.
Yep.
And then we say, okay, how much water do you have available on your property? What's the quality of that water? What's the power situation? And what's the regulations on your property? Is it agricultural or is it light industrial and so on? Because it has a bearing on getting licenses. So we do all that groundwork.
Yep.
And then I said, okay. And then we start modeling the farm. And because there's different models for different species, because we already established what species he wants to do. But again, no, if he says a species, the person we said, can you sell it?
Yes, right. Who's going to buy it?
Can you sell it?
Right.
What is the market price, the farm gate price? Do you know that? And if he doesn't, well, we research that and find it.
You can figure it out.
And because everything you have to do for a profit. So first of all, we establish if it can be a viable business. right? So I imagine AI could do all this for us. Just type in what's the price of this and that and that, and what's the market for this and this. So that could be part of that probably. And then because I know you can ask questions and it'll give you answers. Hopefully they're mostly truthful.
That's why the human is involved always, like we mentioned earlier. But yes,
Yeah,
you want
yeah,
to look
yeah.
at it. But yes,
So
you've
then
got to
all
look
that's
at your fish tanks.
so all that's done, and then usually the first little bit we just talk. There's no contracts because I don't want to take anybody's money and lead them on, right? So as soon as we establish that could be a viable business, he's got the means to do it, then we get into the nitty gritty. So then we said, okay, where's your piece of property? JP has some models that we can just sort of drop down, and okay, this is what it's going to look like, and then we go through the biologics, do a feasibility study basically,
Okay, right.
and then we do the financials, usually a 5 or 10 year projection, and there's an assumption sheet, and the client has to give us a lot of that information because I just want to say this, that he has to have some responsibility, he or she has to have some responsibility into that. I'm just not going to pick numbers nilly-willy. See, he has to do some of his research. We plug all the things in, say, okay, your rate of return is such. It's going to take you so many years to pay everything back. Are you still game? And if he says yes, okay. And then we start designing the farm on the property because that has to be done, which is unfortunate. You got to spend money before the regulators get in, which is,
Why?
it's a shame.
You have some skin in the game, or what? Why? What's the reason for that?
Well, regulators, they want to basically see what you're exactly going to do. And okay, and it's just not, you just can't do generalizations. We used to be able to do that. But in the last few years, you basically got to give them not engineered drawings, darn close.
I'm seeing you now. Yeah, they want to make sure that this is a decent investment as well to
Yeah.
protect everybody. But no, I get it.
And then depending on the scale, the guy could be spending $10,000 to $250,000
Right.
just to find out if he can do it.
So that begs a question that I want to ask even before I get to my last question here, John. Is there any kind of subsidies from the government to assist people? The U.S. has got the USDA that does that, but you're shaking your head. No, not in Canada, but the U.S. must have ideas to
Yeah, we're actually doing a job in Nebraska, a 3,000 ton farm.
So it depends surely what country you're in, but yeah, talk about
and what state,
Nebraska.
and what state, right? I know that they got some loans or some grants to do some feasibility and whatnot. I think the United States could be a little progressive more in certain areas than Canada. Brought up here, we have, I don't know, it's like nickels. They give you a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, and it's all research stuff.
Okay.
And then, of course, a lot of guys don't want to take that because as soon as the government steps in, it's public knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. So somebody can grab it. Okay. I see what you're saying. So you want to be a little careful there.
You have to be a little careful.
All of these intake items that you mentioned, the diagrams, the questionnaires and things for the potential client, and even researching for where grants might be, all that intake can be assisted heavily by artificial intelligence.
Well, that's good because it can take up to 2 years to get a permit.
There's no such thing in this world as a free, as a sure thing, but I can almost guarantee we can cut down that time. However, dealing with the government is a rate limiting step. I completely understand, and I don't know who you're working with there, but yeah, that would definitely be one of the rate limiting steps. So,
well, we have two organizations: the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, DFO, and then we have Water, Air, Land Planning, which is the provincial part. And I've had projects, investors ready to invest $100 million. I got them the money right now. I already invested. Well, it's going to take 2 years to get the permit. Goodbye. I can't wait 2 years.
I mean, that's a tragedy. So, will you mention that second entity that you mentioned? I caught the PFO, but what was the second?
UALP, Water, Air, Land Planning.
And you said that's part of the ministry, or what?
Yeah, it's the Ministry of Environment.
I spent most of my time in, when I was flying the plane around in Ontario, so they had the OPP, the provincial police, and just all that. But so I'm familiar with that. John, if you look 2-3 years out, you're probably eyeing that retirement, as we've talked about a couple of times. But what do you think will be the biggest competitive advantage you could have, or that AI, artificial intelligence, could give you in that front end intake? What could you foresee as an advantage?
I think if I can get artificial intelligence to satisfy the government by even half the time, that would be huge, absolutely huge. And I know that our new prime minister He says he's going to get everything done in 6 months now, all these major projects that Canada wants to do. But good luck. You got to fight the bureaucracy. You can say whatever you want.
Fight the good fight, what have you. John, do you have any last thoughts? Well, I concur. It's been most enjoyable. I just real quick, I studied biology and chemistry in school, so I was tracking right with you. I am a fisherman, I'm an angler, but not but this really intrigues me, so I'm really glad that you accepted this invitation to chat. So it's been a fantastic conversation. Before we wrap up, how can listeners, potential clients, whoever, how can they contact with you? How can they get in touch with you to learn more about JLH Consulting? How can they reach you?
We have a website, jlhconsulting.tv. Like the television.tv. Our phone number here is, don't use it very often. What's our phone number, JP?
Okay.
1314, yeah.
Okay. I don't know how many people that dial the phone anymore, but hey, what the heck? That's
well, then of course, the website, we have our emails, which we mostly do.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of conferences. If people are interested, they should start now. There's a very good conference called RASTEC, which is going to be in St. Augustine. The next one's in St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh my gosh. Are you going to travel there?
Don't know.
John, if you do, I would love to.
Well, I might, because my niece lives there.
Okay, well, gosh, let's stay in touch. That'd be really great. You'll surely be in my neighborhood.
And so this is, I don't know if you can see that.
I can. Okay, good. I absolutely can. Yep.
Oh, what's that in there? So it's called RASTEC.
Yep.
RASTEC at the very bottom there.
I see.
And it's going to be in, I think it's May or June. But just look up RASTEC. It's going to be in St. Augustine, Florida, the next one. So
that's outstanding. Okay. With that, again, I'll say thank you very much, and I'll stop the recording, John. Thanks a million. But remember, hang out for just a second while this downloads, so I can get the copy in your hand, and then we'll go from there. Again, this is MimasAI podcast signing off. Thanks again, John. Okay, you might